Hi, Scott Orlin with CINEMA-Magazin. A new film is coming your way called Rebecca, and I'm here with one of the stars, Armie Hammer. Armie, obviously for many people realizing this is based on a 1940 film, but also a book. Were either of them interesting enough for you to access prior to making yours?
Yeah, both were interesting and both were fantastic pieces of sort of like art. But the book was more important for me because Hitchcock made an adaptation of the book and veered a little bit from the original source material and put his own spin on it. And that's like what we're doing essentially. We're modernizing the book, but also at the same time trying to stay more true to the original source material. I didn't watch the movie beforehand. I tried to steer clear of it. I didn't want to be influenced by, Sir Laurence Olivier's performance or anything like that. So I read the book, a bunch of times before we started shooting. I start at the beginning, get to the end, and just go right back and just kind of go back and forth. But yeah, the book was super helpful because it gave me more information.
You introduce us to a character, Maxim, and obviously, from the outside, he looks polished together like he has it all. But as the movie progresses, we start to realize there are secrets. There are things he's not talking about. Mm. As you approach a character like that, how easy is it to convey mystery?
It's an interesting balancing act because you have to give away nothing, but you have to also not be flat. It has to be something hopefully dynamic where it looks like you are trying to give away nothing as opposed to just you have nothing going on. It's a challenge. It's a fun challenge, but it's all about where you hold things in your body, what you do, how you move, and also staying sort of like authentic to how people acted at the time, especially the upper class aristocracy. You would never show that anything was wrong. You would never show that you have a weakness. And by the way, that sucks. And it wreaks havoc on Maxim. If this guy knew how to healthily communicate with people or how to be emotionally mature and convey how he was feeling, the movie would be so much shorter because it would just turn into like a really good conversation with these two. And it would be like My Dinner with Andre, Yeah.
And you have another movie coming out as well, A Death on the Nile. And if they both share a common thread, is that you have a killer wardrobe in both. I mean, you're definitely a little more period. Yeah. Is there a difference in the way you talk or move when you are in clothes that are of a different time?
Yeah, and the clearest example is like right now in this time, you can be wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt that might have like Cheeto dust on it, or you can be wearing like a nice suit. When you're wearing the suit, it feels like a suit of armor, almost like it's a facade, right? The same thing with these period clothes. When you put on pants that have suspenders and you put on a shirt and then a thing and you have to do all the buttons because they don't have zippers and like all that stuff. Getting dressed in the morning feels like what it would have felt like to get dressed in 1940 or 1938 when the book came out. But at the same time, like, and just to go back to something you said about Maxim, he seems like the facade of Maxim is everything is put together. This guy lives a very wealthy life. This guy's very happy. This guy has a beautiful home. He's got a beautiful car. He has beautiful clothes. He must be happy. And it's a really interesting thing because we're also going through that same exact thing right now with social media. When you look at someone's social media, you're seeing the curated best version of themselves that they want you to see. What you're not seeing is them waking up in a bad mood, them waking up with bad breath, no one is perfect. And when you think that someone is perfect, like Maxim, you're only setting yourself up for huge disappointment because he might turn out to be someone who murdered his pregnant wife. You never know.
Oh, yeah. A little tease of a plot twist.
Yeah.
One of the aspects of this movie that I thought was really interesting that it can correlate to almost everybody is family legacy. Of, as we see with Maxim, he's carrying the burden, or at least of maintaining something that he has been handed down from generation to generation to generation. And I was just wondering, when you look back on your life, are there family legacies that you felt a responsibility that I need to continue?
If I made the decision that I wanted to be an actor and I wanted to make films when I was 12 years old. So pretty much from the time of 12, I was like, that's all I want to do. Like, I just want to make movies. Like, that's it. So I mean, I'm sure there was external pressure to sort of adhere to, traditional family, whatever. But I never subscribed to it. I was like, That's your business. I'm going to go make movies. See you guys later. And I feel really fortunate about that. Like I never felt like I had to answer to anyone, or I've never felt like I had to, you know, I mean, when you look at a guy like Maxim, he's got, there's a line in the script about something where, you know, the De Winter family dates back all the way to the Tudor court, which I think is like the 1200s or something like that. So for, you know, 700 years, his family has passed down this house and home that they have to take care of, that they have to pay for, that they have to keep going. And it's a lot of pressure. And, you know, I mean, when you start putting pressure like that on kids, you put pressure on an adult and pressure can make diamonds, but you put pressure on a kid and like you can just crumble the interior framework of who that child is.
When we look at whether it's film or TV shows that are kind of set in British aristocracy, we kind of get seduced a little bit by the whole concept of the staff. Oh my God, there's somebody there to dress you. There's somebody there to bring you breakfast. And then I kept thinking, I don't know if I'd like somebody to get me my orange juice. I think I kind of want to do it myself.
Yeah, yeah.
Going through an experience like this, I mean, did it engage you at all? That something that you would want to have or something that you would kind of resist against?
No. I mean, imagine, so in a house like Manderley, you might have 50 domestic staff. And then you might have, you know, another 10 or 20 who just work outside the house, maintaining the whatever. So if you're in your house, and I say house, not home, because none of them feel like cozy homes. They're so big, these manor houses, that no matter how much stuff you put in there, it will always feel empty. Oh, thank you. So it will always feel empty. Oh, in maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Okay, thank you. Sorry. The thing about like these houses like Manderley, it's like you have so many people working in it and it's so big that at no point can you ever feel like you're just alone and comfy in your home. I mean, it would be, and also every single staff member is watching you for cues. Do you give a signal that you need tea? Do you give a signal that you want the fire to be lit? Do you give a signal that you're ready to read the paper? And so you're always being watched. You're always being studied. And it's like, that just seems like you're like in a fishbowl. Not only is everyone in, you know, the circles of society looking at you and judging you and trying to pick you apart, like the same way we do with public figures now, but everyone in your staff is also someone who you can't talk to. That just isn't the dumb thing. You don't have a conversation with your valet. Like, you know, I would not like that. Like that sounds, to be perfectly honest, that sounds terrible.
And my last question for you, I want to talk about your two beautiful co-stars. I mean, obviously Lily James, incredibly talented actor, and it must have been a pleasure to work with, but you had another beautiful co-star too, and that was the Rolls. And if you could talk a little bit about, I used the word seduction before. Was it seductive to drive a car like that? I mean, is it cool?
That car was so awesome to look at and to drive when it was working. Because, I mean, look, the car's from the 1920s and it would break. I mean, shit, that old breaks. Anyone born in the 1920s, they're probably broken too. Like, it's just an old car and it's like rife with old issues. But man, when it was running right and it was humming and we were driving around the streets of Monte Carlo or like the Côte d'Azur, or we were driving around the English countryside in it, it just felt so good being on those roads and shifting. And just, that car's so good. At one point, the engine on the car blew. And I think we got the car from Bentley. I think like they actually provided the car. I mean, we had to, I don't know how it worked out logistically, but I'm pretty sure the car came from Bentley. And at one point we were driving it, or they were doing something with it, and it wasn't me driving it at the time, thank God, but the entire transmission blew, or something in the engine blew. I don't know exactly what it was, but I was like, well, what are they going to do? They're like, oh, they're just going to send a new engine. And I go, they just have another engine sitting around for this car? And they go, yeah, it's from the company. I go, okay, how do you ship an engine? Like, did you put it on the back of a truck? And they go, no, they can't do that. And I go, well, what do they do? They go, oh, we have to put the engine inside of a jet, and then we'll fly it down and put it into the car. And I was like, this is sounding really labor intensive for like a 30-second shot. Are we sure we need to do this?
Well, it's well worth it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Armie Hammer, is always such a pleasure to talk to you. The film is called Rebecca, and this is Scott Orlin. Until next time.
Thank you, Scott Orlin.
Let's stop.